Thank you, Shahid. My name is Jesper Blak, as you said, and I've been with Configit for 21 years. And during that time, I worked with a lot of our customers, helping them to use our software to integrate their solutions to SAP. And today we're also going to talk about SAP. We're going to talk about SAP AVC, which is a new configurator from SAP. It replaces the old LO-VC configurator. And today we're going to talk about some of the challenges that you might experience when you migrate from LO-VC to AVC. And specifically, we're going to look at the 3 different options that you can use in that transition from LO-VC to AVC. I'm going to explain how you can use these 3 options to make the move as smooth as possible. And it will also open up for some new possibilities that are relevant, especially if you have configuration data in many different systems. So before I present the 3 options, I'd like to spend a couple of minutes highlighting some of the key milestones that Configit has achieved over the last many years when working with customers and their SAP data. We have a long history in Configit of helping SAP customers make their models accessible across their businesses. We started 20 years ago when we developed and released the first version of Configit Quote. We've heard about that also in some of the other presentations. And back then, Quote was a Windows-based CPQ application with a direct integration to SAP. And it supported configurable products from SAP and also pricing and sales data. In 2009, the application was certified by SAP, and 2 years later, Configit released our first enterprise modeling application, Configit ACE. In 2017, the Quote application was launched as a web-based SaaS offering, and 3 years later, the 2 applications, Quote and ACE, were unified into one product offering. In 2020 and 2022, we strengthened the quality and security of our products with 2 ISO certifications. And finally, last year, as we also heard, ACE was launched as a SaaS offering, allowing our customers to utilize a lot of the benefits that they get from having such a solution. And over the years, we have used ACE and Quote to provide advanced configuration solutions to a lot of different customers and making good integrations to SAP. And you can see here some of the customers that we work with in this business. And yeah, this of course means that we in Configit have a lot of experience, a lot of knowledge about SAP, how to make the integrations work, how to get the master data from SAP into our solution, and how to make that accessible outside of the standard ERP system. So the next step for us in Configit is to look at how we can help customers that are migrating from LO-VC to AVC. And the reason for this is that the existing configurator in SAP called the LO-VC configurator is going end of life in 2027, so in about 3 years' time from now. And this means that mainstream support will stop and customers will need to migrate their solution. And as part of that migration, you also need to consider what you want to do with your configurable products, because the variant configurator in ECC will be replaced by a new configurator in S4 HANA called the Advanced Variant Configurator, or AVC. And this means that LO-VC will now only be available in the on-prem deployments of S4 HANA, and all new improvements to the configurator will only be made available in the new Advanced Variant Configurator. So that means that if you want to use S4 HANA in the cloud, or if you want to take advantage of some of the new improvements to the configurator, you have to switch to AVC and migrate your product models. There is some support in SAP for this migration process. There's some tooling in place for it, but it's not a fully automated process. And you need to manually migrate and adapt part of your product model, part of each product model in order to succeed with that migration. And the main reason for that is that AVC uses a different configuration engine than the one in ECC. The LO-VC engine and the AVC engine are two different configurators, basically. And thus the migrated models might behave differently when you move them from one version of the configurator to the other. So before you start making such a move, which might be a big migration project, it's worth to consider, first of all, what the implications are, how you can make the transition as smooth as possible, and also if there are situations where an alternative solution could offer other benefits. Before we look at the different options, let's take a quick look at some of the main implications of such a move from LO-VC to AVC. So first of all, you need to be aware that the AVC models behave differently than the LO-VC models. And like I said before, the main reason for this is that AVC uses a constraint solver called G-code. This means that, for example, some of the rules that you have written in your existing models, an if-then rule, for example, will behave differently in AVC. This might be okay for some of your products, but it might also, in some cases, lead to unexpected results. The second thing is that some functions are now obsolete in AVC. Actions, for example, are no longer supported. And also if you use what is called preconditions on values, you need to know that AVC handles these as constraints now. And therefore, you cannot control the order in which these are processed, and therefore the behavior might be different. There's also some other things around. If you use a keyword called specified in a rule, you might run into problems. The third thing to consider is that basically the biggest change in AVC is that the configurator is better at providing, or better at preventing, I should rather say, users from selecting invalid choices. And it does so by using the open source constraint solver from G-code. Constraint solvers are used to search for solutions to a constraint problem, basically. But in configuration, you're actually interested you're not interested in searching for a solution, but you're interested in solving a configuration problem, which is a different problem than a constraint problem. In configuration, you're interested in basically determining for each variable in your model and for each value whether the user is allowed to select that value and still get a valid configuration of the product. So a constraint solver needs to be adapted to solve configuration problems. Configuration problems are inherently different than constraint problems. There's a couple of new features in the new configurator. You can now use not equals in a constraint. You don't need to write an inferences section in your rules. You can negate a table rule. There's some more precise rounding when you use math. And there's some improved syntax when you work with strings. But overall, AVC is only an incremental improvement compared to the LO-VC configurator. And the whole modeling experience is unchanged. Because of the differences in the two configurators, so both in the syntax but also the semantics of these two worlds, you potentially need to adapt hundreds or maybe even thousands of product models if you want to migrate. And lastly, AVC is not free, so there's also an economic aspect to consider. So to summarize, there are situations where it can be difficult to migrate from LO-VC to AVC. the configuration models might need a lot of rework. So it's natural to ask, how can I make this move as smooth as possible? And other situations where I should consider alternative options. On top of this, there's also another challenge to consider, and we already heard about this in some of the other presentations. And that is that variant configuration needs to be performed in an end-to-end process across multiple domains, multiple systems in your enterprise. And SAP is a central system there, but it's not the only system. Very often customers have a fragmented IT landscape. They have multiple sources of product configuration data. They might have Excel-based data or bespoke solutions or other ERP systems. Usually as the result of merging with another company. And this means that in addition to the migration challenge itself, you also need to consider how to integrate variant configuration data across your business during that migration process, and what considerations to make if you have multiple sources of configuration data. So we'll now look at 3 different options that can make the migration to AVC as smooth as possible and open up for new possibilities when you have configuration data from multiple systems that you need to have available in your landscape. So at a high level, the 3 options look like this. So the first option is to basically keep the LO-VC models in SAP and use the SAP extractor to basically extract the models out of SAP, import them into ACE, and then expose the data through the standard ACE APIs. You do this on an automated, ongoing basis, and you can then consume these models directly from ACE and get the same behavior as these models have in SAP. The next option that we're going to look at is basically to keep the structure of the LO-VC models inside of SAP, but then migrate the rules into ACE as a one-off task, and then you continue to use ACE as the modeling environment for these rules and the logic. And finally, the last option, the third option, is similar to the first option, but here you basically extract the AVC models into ACE, and then you use some of the capabilities in ACE. We're going to look at verification, for example, and something on runtime, which can provide, in some cases, some possibilities and some better functionality. And this option can actually be used in combination with option 1 and 2. So you can support a more gradual, stepwise transition from LO-VC to AVC. And I'll get back to some of these things in the next couple of slides, but this is like the high-level overview of the 3 different options. So let's take a look at the first option. This is basically to keep the LO-VC models in SAP and extract them using Configit's SAP extractor on an ongoing automated basis. You then use the ACE configure REST APIs on the platform so that you can consume basically configuration data through those APIs. And you get the same behavior as these models have on the SAP side. And you can say the advantage of this option is that you can basically extend the lifetime of your LO-VC models in this way. You don't need to migrate all the models at once, and you can basically utilize some of that functionality. The second option shown on the slide here is basically to keep the structure of your LO-VC models inside of SAP and then migrate the rules or recreate the rules in ACE. So basically you keep the structure in SAP, the characteristics and the classes, but you do all the rules and all the logic in ACE model. We call this the shell KMAT approach, and the idea is that SAP contains the shell of your products, and the rules and the logic is then maintained and authored inside of ACE. So the idea is that you can then continue to use ACE as the modeling environment for these models. And the advantage of this approach is that you can use some of the capabilities that ACE offers in both modeling and verification. And I'll give a little overview of that on the next slide. We already heard a little bit about it in some of the previous presentations. And in particular, ACE offers some high-performance configuration APIs that you can use. They are easy to scale. They give predictable performance. So if you have very complex models, this could be a way forward. And like I said earlier in my presentation, you can actually use this second option here together with the first option. So you basically gradually move more and more models from out of, you could say, LO-VC, the ones that you want to remodel, re-architect. You can do that using this option here, while you still extract some of the existing models using the first option. The third option is similar to option 1, but here you basically extract the AVC models into ACE. You do that on an ongoing, continuous basis, and some of the reasons for doing that is that you get some good verification capabilities and fast runtime APIs. You can basically think of this as a combination also with option 1 and 2. You support a gradual move, stepwise transition of your models from LO-VC to AVC. You can use option 1 and 2 for one set of your models, and then option 3 for those models that you want to migrate to AVC. But at the same time, you have one single or one shared source of truth for your configuration data, so that you have access to that information across your business. So I mentioned a couple of times that there are some benefits of using this approach here. And let me go through some of the high-level benefits that you get from using this way of working here. So there are 4 areas basically where ACE offers some unique capabilities that could be the reason to consider ACE as an alternative or a supplement at least to SAP for your configuration. So first of all, ACE offers some unique modeling capabilities. We already heard that also in some of the previous talks. A key concept that we have in ACE is what we call collaborative modeling. And this approach to modeling is similar to how software developers collaborate on developing software using tools, for example, like GitHub. So the idea is that modelers create all their changes in work items. These work items are isolated from the main branch of the product model. And basically, when you have made changes, you can review those changes. You can make sure your automated tests still work. You can have colleagues review your changes. And once these changes are merged into the main branch, you have a new consolidated view of your model. And in the meantime, other modelers can also work creating new rules, or maybe even changing some of the same parts of the model that you're working with. And ACE will ensure that these changes are then all applied in the right sequence. If there are conflicts, the system will help you resolve these conflicts and make sure that there is a very clear and transparent process around the whole development process. Yeah, all data is versioned, of course. You get full traceability over all the changes you make over time. And finally, a third feature, which is quite effective, that we use very often in our projects, is what we also call perpetual modeling. And the idea here is that you can use effectivity dates in your models to control when certain rules or when certain features are phased in and out in your products. And this way you can maintain one version of your product model, and basically you have effectivity points in your product model to control when these new rules need to take into effect. So by using this way of modeling, you can basically support a more continuous development, continuous deployment of your models. The models themselves basically know when the different things in the model need to take effect over time. Second feature in ACE is the Verify module, and this is a very powerful tool for ensuring correctness of your models. I gave a talk about this at the last year's summit, and some of the key takeaways are that you can use automated test suites to catch errors early in the modeling process. So this means that you basically can get a step-by-step explanation if you have conflicting rules. We also heard about solution spaces earlier, a powerful concept that allows you to explore the different configurations of your product. You can even visualize it and see how the different elements of your product interact with one another, what the dependencies are between the features caused by the rules in your model. And then finally, the compile-based approach to configuration allows you to basically analyze and optimize the performance of your configurators and do that in a very controlled way. You can deploy your systems or your solutions to a test environment. You can measure the performance. If performance is good, then all is fine. You can release the product models to your downstream systems. But you also have the opportunity here to optimize the models and to get the desired performance that you want. The third area where we have something good to offer is on the runtime side. We already talked about our VC technology giving good predictable performance. Once you compile a model, the model actually gets direct feedback on the complexity of the model. The VT compiler guarantees that the users won't experience any dead ends when they configure the product. And therefore they won't get stuck during the configuration process. And then finally we have integrations with other systems. We also heard that in the previous talk by Jens. Our open APIs make it possible to both import and export data out of our system. This means that you can also mix data from multiple different systems and orchestrate them using the ACE platform. So to summarize, because I can also see time is running up here, we have explored three different options that can simplify the migration from LO-VC to AVC. All three options allow you to utilize some of the key features in our products, better modeling experience, some unique verification capabilities, fast and predictable runtime, and the possibility to integrate with other systems. You can either use these different options individually or in combination, and this way you can basically take advantage from migrating from LO-VC to AVC in a smooth and nice way. And that's it. Thanks for listening in, and back to you, Shahid.